Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of Dale's Rails. What I'd like to share with you, what I've got done so far with my lighting. I was able to put enough together for you to get a little short video out on that this week. And also, if you're interested on how to set your fixed voltage on your CW80, if you've bought one and realize you have no voltage output on it and didn't have any instructions like on the ones I bought. So I've discovered how to do that, and I'll share that with you as well. So hope you find this helpful. Okay, the three structures here have the new lighting in them. And, I lit my warehouse building here as well. And then also the tractor shop here. And I was a little bit surprised on these. They're a warm white. And I was thinking the Woodland Scenics there were warm white. You'll be able to see the color variation between the two. So these new lights that I bought, these SMDs I showed you in a previous video, they are warm white, and they are much warmer than the warm white in the Woodland Scenics. And I thought the Woodland Scenics was warm white as compared to the Menards, which is an insanely bright white. But, I put this distribution module here in my control panel, and then I also put the Woodland Scenics ones in here as well. And like I said, your input here, this has really three input sources. You have this one here, which works with the Menards power supply. Like I said, this power supply on this end of it was 4 to 24 volts, AC or DC. So your two main inputs are going to be here and then this screw terminal. So this would be more like if you're doing a wall wart, maybe a low voltage, maybe DC if you wanted to go that way. And then, I wired this right into a one of my transformer supplies off of my CW80. So this lighting module is powered completely on the same circuit that I'm using for my crossing signals over there. So it's really handy, and to be able to power this directly off my track. And this little setting here, like I said, this little switch right here, I can flip it to 3 volts direct or 12. And direct, pretty much whatever is coming in here, these two sources is what it's going to send out to the DC side of this board. So these are all my lighting circuits for each building. Each one of these goes to a building. This is the power supply to supply power to the board. It's kind of nice. It's got a green indicator light. I will also change this. I plan to wire this into a toggle switch up here or something so I can have control. In fact, both of these I plan on controlling with a toggle switch. The Woodland Scenics, of course, it's powered directly off of the Woodland Scenics power supply. So it's a different power supply. So that's going to give me two different power supplies in here. But you can see I've got, this module allows you to add up to 28 different lighting circuits. It does give you all these different JST connectors, and then these pin connectors. Here's some more over here. Between the screw terminals, your JST, and these pin terminals here, there's 28 different pairs for 28 individual lighting circuits. And I've got each one of these going to a building. So each building is being served by its own supply. That I wanted to do it that way just so I can add more lighting to that if I need to down the roadways. And it's handy for me to have this all right here in a convenient location, so this is easy to access. I'll have some other relays and stuff I'll be putting in this little cabinet as well for control of my crossing signals and that type of thing. So this is pretty simple to wire. I like it because it gives me the flexibility. Each one of these LEDs I showed in the video a while back, these were 12 to 18 volt. So each one of those SMDs in there has a built-in resistor already. It's why I can just directly power it off this board. And with this setting set to direct, as long as the SMD is rated for 12 to 18 volt, I can wire any additional lighting LEDs that are rated 12 to 18 volt off of this same power supply. Now it does have, like I said, there's 3 power sources you can do. You can buy another board. It comes with the interconnecting cables, and I can daisy chain from one board to the next. So if you have another board and your LEDs are of a different voltage, say 3 volts, you can set the new board to 3 volts and power it off the same input, as this one, because it's just going to power. It's just going to keep powering each board, but you cannot run 3 volt and 12 to 18 volt LEDs off of this same board. So that's the only. They have to the voltage has to match on the board. So since this board's set to direct, well, it's going to have to match whatever this incoming voltage is. The future boards would be, if you can switch, even though your input here would be the same 12 volt that I'm using, you can set that toggle switch on here to a 3 volt. And even though this input voltage will be 12 volts AC, you can output 3 volts DC, even by using the same power supply. So you can just keep using the same power supply. This setting over here lets you change whatever the voltage requirements would be for your LEDs. So that's kind of the advantage to this board. And, if I can just keep adding more LEDs down the road, I've got some street lighting I'm going to do. So, that's going to be really helpful when it comes to do my street lighting too, that I got to do yet. So big advantage to this board, in my opinion, is all these things I have just mentioned. So let's go over here and see about setting our fixed voltage on our CW80. Before we do the CW80 setup here, I'll go ahead and dim this down here real quick so you can see the difference in those building lights, what I'm talking about. You can see how yellow those look. Of course, that Menards building over there, it really is a contrast there just because, they're really bright. But you can kind of see this picture a little better. The SMDs that are in the buildings that were not lit by Woodland Scenics versus the Woodland Scenics building. You can see it makes the Woodland Scenics building look a lot brighter. So that's going to be the way this is going to be for now. I do know that little module. I didn't check that yet. I can check that later, but it does have a dimmer on it. So perhaps maybe it's just dimmed down. I didn't check that first before I, came out here, but it could be that I just need to adjust the dimmer on that too. So I'm going to try that, and I'll keep you informed on that in a future video possibly. So let's get over here and check how we can set up our CW80. Okay, so it helps, you're going to need a voltage meter. Of course, these transformers are AC, so you'd want to set your voltmeter to AC volts, of course. This is this meter pretty much adjusts to the voltage as long as I'm on AC. So even though I'm down here at 12 volts or whatever voltage I want to plug in, this transformer can be adjusted anything from 0, well, or 1, I guess, all the way up to 16. I believe these are 16 volt max. And the way you do these, it's pretty simple. It's going to look a little bit confusing just because I'm going to be using the variable voltage to adjust the fixed voltage. So just disregard the fact that I'm going to be operating the variable voltage. It's going to look like I'm operating the variable voltage, but the way you do this is that you have to have all three of these buttons pushed down simultaneously. Now, you see that light flashing on the CW80 there. Then I just simply raise the handle. It's pretty simple. And you can look at watch the voltmeter here. You can see it climbing. You got to keep your fingers pressed down. If I want 12 volts, I'm at 1155. 1232 is a good voltage. You just take your fingers off and then you drop the handle down. Well, now you'll see the voltage is set at 12.65. So it'll be like that always. There isn't any way to disable it, short of just unplugging the transformer. In my case, I just turn the wall switch off because I have all my transformers on a master kill switch. So when I leave the room, I just flip the switch and everything on my layout dies. So that's just the way I'm set up. So it's pretty simple to set these up. But if you get one of these, the first thing I thought when I checked the voltage out, there was 0 volts there on the fixed voltage, and I thought there was something wrong with the transformer. Now it's real easy. If you want to zero this back out, you just hold those 3 buttons back down again. You can see how that transformer dropped down to 0. I know it's showing 0.35, but that's 0 volts. But just to set this transformer again, what's nice about it, you can change it. If you don't want that voltage all the time, you can change it to whatever voltage you want. And it's just as easy as doing that. All 3 buttons down at the same time. Raise the handle. You can see I'm trying to climb. I want to get close to 12. Pretty close right there. You can play around with this however you want. Pull your fingers off. Drop this handle down. We should be right at, that's 12.43. And it's going to be like that. Now this transformer, since that voltage is set, see, it's going to be ready to run the engine. So it will go back to variable voltage. You don't have to be too concerned about that. And once you set that, it's only going to switch over to the fixed voltage provided you have all 3 of these buttons pushed down. This was bugging me. I couldn't let this slide anymore. I'm going to go ahead and try this out. See, here's the dimmer. If I can get this kind of dark. See if I can. Okay, so we'll check this out. Yeah, you can see how that brightened it up quite a bit. So that's all it needed to be done, is just crank that up a little bit. It was just down all the way. The Woodland Scenics ones here, we can try it. That one there. Yeah, you can dim them down to pretty good. The Woodland Scenics, each building has its own dimmer, which is kind of neat. And I can crank it down pretty far. But they go completely out, whereas the new module I put in here from Eve model, it doesn't go completely out. Now maybe it's because I'm on 12 volts, so setting, but that's all that needed to be done, you know. So it's acceptable to me, the way it is. You know, I've got something here for you Marks guys. I think we'll run a train here real quick around here. Okay, what I have here tonight, I have a Rock Island train set. It's headed up by a 1998 S2 switcher. And the Nerdvana question I have for you guys, what year did Marks produce the 1998 S2 switchers? This little train set I made, the cassette I made, is headed up by the Rock Island S2 switcher. This version has the white lettering with the silver truck sides. They did make one, another version of the Rock Island 1998 with the black lettering. So, and I'm not really sure anymore which is considered the rarer version. This may have been sold initially as a power unit and a dummy. I don't have the dummy. They did sell the Rock Islands, it seemed like, in a power and a dummy unit. And it would have been great to have the dummy unit, but it's pretty hard just to come by just any of the Rock Islands, period. But we're going to run this around here a little bit on the Lionel style tubular track and turnouts, which is something that's not supposed to happen. But as you can see, it's not having any problems at all with that. And this version here, to kind of give away maybe its age, does have a traction tire, so some of the 1998s had traction tires and some of them didn't. This particular version did. And you can see it doesn't have any problem traversing the Lionel style turnout. So, you know, it's really just the Marks motors that have the fat wheel that have that problem, really. You can see it's running just fine going through all these turnouts here. You know, it doesn't have too bad a run characteristics. Kind of slow it down a little bit. You can see they have pretty good slow running speed. So, you know, it's a little noisy. It's making the old Mark grind. The old Mark's growl. You know, it's kind of a fun little engine to run around. I kind of like running the Mark stuff. And you can see this version here does have some damage on it. I'll be repairing that. I can show you guys how I repair these chipped cabs and restore that so you can't even tell that that was broken off. So run this engine back a little bit here. If it runs back. We're back in here in the station. And bring him in here. a better look. Well, there it is. These are some really good little engines. I mean, they, especially these versions that have the traction tires on it, just to make sure here. Yeah, you can see it's got 2 traction tires on there, on each of the powered wheels. So, and this also has the plastic gears. This version had something wrong with the armature, and I believe there was a part that came loose on the armature plate or something, and I soldered it back, and it's been running fine ever since. So I was glad to get that repaired. But some of the 1998s and the E7 diesels both had this motor where you had the plastic gears and the traction tires. These are the versions, as you can imagine, that have really good pulling power. In fact, I've pulled some very long consists with some of my E7s and these 1998s. As far as I know, the 1998s and the E7s were the only models that had the traction tires. And some of these were produced right up to the end, I believe, in 1972. So hopefully you've come up with the answer on the Nerdvana question. 1955, I found information as early as 1955 when Marx started producing the S2s here. Some of the information I'm showing was 1956. So I'm not sure how accurate it is. It's getting harder and harder to find good information on Marx. The source that used to be out there, they're no longer there. The guy that was responsible for that, I can't really remember his name offhand, but he was the one that was really knowledgeable in all the Marx models. Well, that's all I have for tonight. Hope you kind of enjoyed this session. Until then, you're watching Dale's Rails, and thanks for watching.